Well, King County still is planning to close down the youth detention center here as early as next year. But a police chief warned this week the juvenile crime that he's seeing in his city and other law enforcement are seeing around the region shows there is almost no deterrent for kids who want to commit violent crimes and steal cars. They aren't old enough to have a driver's license, but again and again, police are catching young offenders in stolen cars and with guns accused of violent offenses.
Failing!
Renton Police added 3 15-year-old boys to the list of youth who've been arrested in stolen cars this week, prompting their chief of police to put out this letter where he said youth need to be held accountable for their actions. They realize there aren't any meaningful consequences and there's no deterrence. In Renton, crime stats show an increase of more than 300% in cars stolen by juveniles between 2022 and 2023. It mirrors what we've heard from law enforcement around the Puget Sound region.
Those are the people that are out doing the armed robberies, stealing cars, ramming them through businesses, shooting each other.
It's not just 1 or 2, and we've seen the shock and awe robberies where there's 7 or 8 that go into a store.
Today we talked with Jim Feuda from Crime Stoppers of Puget Sound, who said youth have been emboldened, leading to scenes like this.
It's a group, and they're brazen, and they don't feel that there's anything that's going to be done to them.
But he says recent law changes, including relaxing the limits on when police can chase cars, may help.
I think some of that accountability part of it is what's really missing, and of course, lack of police being able to enforce some of these laws that obviously need to be changing.
From Renton to Seattle to Pierce County, it's a similar warning from law enforcement.
I think it's more they know what they can get away with. With what is going on now, I really have concern for this generation.
As for the closing of the youth detention center, well, the King County Council next week is expected to get an update on that. I read through a plan that they're going to be presented with. It says it is still on track to close down the detention center and replace it with so-called respite homes where youth who are arrested or detained can go and receive more community-based treatment. We'll see if the council buys off on it. Reporting live outside the youth detention center, Jeremy Harris, KOMO News.
Well, Preston and Mary, the victims in some of these cases were held at gunpoint in their own homes for nearly an hour while the suspects demanded their account information. One of the suspects even being so bold as to leave the home while this was all happening, go out and test to make sure a bank card was working, then return before finally letting the victims go.
Ever since then, we've been keeping our front door bolted all the time, even during the day when we're up.
Neighbors in the Olympic Hills and Lake City neighborhoods have been on edge ever since multiple homes were hit by a group of armed robbers, holding victims hostage in the middle of the night.
I just felt terrible. I felt really sad for them to have to go through something like that, to be awakened in their own house. And of course, it's hard not to think about, well, what if it had happened to you?
Victoria Stiles' neighbors were held at gunpoint in their home for 45 minutes. And according to court documents, the suspects forced the victims to log into their bank portals and provide access to the suspects, allowing them to view their limits or balances, then threatened to come back if the victims canceled any accounts or locked their electronics. Police arrested 3 suspects, linking them to the case through surveillance video and purchases they made with the victims' credit cards and accounts, racking up hundreds of dollars through Best Buy, DoorDash, and video games.
Committed home invasion robbery.
2 of the suspects made their first appearance in a King County courtroom, where the judge ordered their faces not to be recorded by media. One suspect's girlfriend even speaking in court to try and advocate for his release.
He means a lot to the people around him. I'm not sure what's going on here with everything, but he's a good guy.
And so far, police have arrested those 3 suspects, but 1 suspect is still outstanding. And also, multiple suspects had other pending criminal charges while they allegedly committed these crimes and were currently out on release. Reporting live in Seattle, Leanne Wynn, KOMO News.